This is Global Currency Insight, and today we're exploring one of the most talked about topics in the world of currency speculation, the possibility of the Iraqi dinar rising sharply in value. At first glance, the idea that the dinar could one day rank among the strongest currencies in the world sounds unrealistic. Yet history shows us that sudden changes in exchange rates are not only possible, but in some cases have already happened. If you stay with me through this discussion, we'll walk through past examples, current circumstances, and what that might mean for people paying attention to the dinar. The details matter, and understanding them could make all the difference in how you view this situation. To really grasp what's being discussed around the Iraqi dinar, we need to look back at a major event in Kuwait's financial history. When Kuwait reintroduced their currency after a period of disruption, something unusual occurred. Their rate didn't immediately stabilize at the well-known level it sits around today. Instead, for a short time, it appeared at levels that caught the attention of anyone watching closely. These numbers were so unexpected that many observers assumed it must have been an error. But once the exchange rate adjusted, settling around the $3 mark, some began to wonder whether that brief spike had served a purpose. The reasoning put forward by many who watched that moment was simple: a temporary high rate can function like bait. Just as fishermen toss food into the water to draw in larger fish, a government or central bank might allow a high exchange rate to attract large-scale participants. These are not small retail holders, they are major players, including institutions, wealthy investors, and entities with enough capital to quickly inject liquidity into a national economy. That short window, whether intentional or not, seemed to reward those ready to act, while most everyday people never had the chance to participate. From a practical standpoint, if a nation is attempting to reestablish or strengthen its currency, one of the first requirements is stability. Stability often depends on liquidity. Large sums of money need to move in and out of the system quickly to support the value of the currency. By opening a short-lived window with attractive rates, governments can encourage large entities to supply that liquidity. Once the immediate goal is achieved, the rate is then adjusted back down to levels considered more sustainable. This creates a sharp contrast between the opportunities seen by well-positioned insiders and the limited options available to ordinary individuals. When looking at the Iraqi dinar today, some observers point to that example from Kuwait as a possible indicator of what could unfold if Iraq decides to change its currency framework. To be clear, there is no guarantee of this happening, but the historical precedent fuels speculation. If something similar occurred and the dinar's rate temporarily surged to levels that seemed too high to last, those who had already prepared would be in a better position to act. The average person might only hear about the event after the opportunity had passed, leaving them watching from the sidelines while larger entities benefited. This is why the concept of being prepared is often emphasized in these conversations. Having currency in a form that can actually be exchanged is one part of it. Not every bank or financial institution handles the dinar, and among those that do, requirements may vary. Some ask customers to already have an account. Others place limits on how much can be exchanged at once. Still others may need advanced notice. Waiting until the last minute to figure this out could mean missing the brief window entirely if one were to open. Timing is another key factor. If such a window does appear, the duration may not be long. Historical examples suggest that it could be a matter of days or even hours, not weeks or months. That means hesitation could cost opportunities. On the other hand, rushing in without understanding the process could create its own problems. Banks might face technical issues, systems could become overloaded, or limits might prevent individuals from exchanging large amounts at once. Being realistic about what can be achieved is just as important as being quick. The question then becomes, what signs could suggest that Iraq is moving toward a significant change in the value of its currency? While no single event can confirm this, there are indicators worth watching. Developments in Iraq's economic reforms, updates on oil production and exports, public statements from the central bank, and news of changes in international financial relationships could all serve as signals. These do not guarantee anything, but they often precede or accompany major changes in currency valuation. It's also important to remember that putting too much hope into one outcome carries risk. Even if someone strongly believes in the potential of the dinar, relying solely on it as an investment strategy can be unwise. Currency speculation is inherently uncertain, and history is full of examples where expected changes never materialized. Responsible observers emphasize that any involvement should be limited to what one can afford to lose, because the risks are significant and the outcomes unpredictable. Another common question is why a country like Iraq would even want to see its currency rise to high levels. In many economies, a very strong currency makes exports less competitive since goods become more expensive for other countries to buy. Iraq, however, has a different situation. Much of its revenue comes from oil, which is priced globally in US dollars. A stronger dinar might not hurt oil exports the way it could harm other industries. Instead, it could make imports cheaper, benefiting the population by lowering the cost of goods, reducing inflation pressures, and potentially improving living standards. Beyond oil, Iraq has been pursuing efforts to diversify its economy. In this process, having a stronger currency could make it easier and cheaper to import advanced equipment and technology, laying a foundation for growth in other industries. But again, this has to be balanced carefully. Iraq must weigh its debt obligations, international relationships, internal stability, and long-term plans before making any sudden moves. This is why currency revaluations, when they do occur, often happen without much public warning. Announcing such plans too early could invite problems like speculation, capital flight, or political pushback. Keeping developments quiet until the last possible moment allows for a smoother transition. That secrecy, however, also means that those without inside access usually hear about the change only after it is underway or already completed. The potential for a brief, high-rate window fits into this larger picture of sudden, tightly controlled shifts. For individuals who do hold dinar or follow this story, the lesson often emphasized is readiness. Being aware of banking procedures, having documents in order, and knowing which institutions may accept the currency are practical steps that can be taken in advance. At the same time, it's essential to recognize that such a window may never happen, and that speculation around it remains just that, speculation. Political events, shifting economic conditions, and changes in international relations can all influence whether such a move is possible. What seems plausible one week can be pushed aside the next. This uncertainty is part of why observers repeatedly stress the importance of not basing an entire financial plan on this single factor. The dinar might be one piece of a broader financial puzzle, but it is far from the whole picture. Looking back, the Kuwait example shows that currency adjustments can create extremely brief opportunities, usually favoring those already prepared and connected. If Iraq ever follows a similar path, the same dynamic could play out again. Whether or not that happens, the central idea remains the same: staying informed is essential, but relying on speculation alone can be risky. In the end, the story of the Iraqi dinar is still unfolding. It's surrounded by uncertainty, possibility, and debate. For those following closely, the key is to approach the subject with both curiosity and caution, recognizing that major changes in global finance rarely move in ways that are predictable or accessible to everyone at once. Whatever direction events ultimately take, this remains one of the most fascinating currency discussions of our time.